on this computer. Great. Another
I do
unmarked
not give permission.
Zoom. Okay, well, you'll just have to stay shut up to this. Mark's here, but he's not talking because he will not accept the Zoom.
I do not give Facebook permission to post my date of birth. Anyway.
Yep, it's on the record now for sure.
I saw one of those even like a week ago. Someone I know posted that. I do not give Facebook permission to display my images, or I'm just like, oh my god.
That's because it carries legal weight. Okay. I thought you were just gonna start doing it, to be honest. So.
No, I thought you were gonna intro. Okay.
Welcome. The year 1992, we crossed oceans of time to bring you a podcast.
And oceans of blood. I am the count. How many people are in this
One.
podcast? Two. Matt Cabbages. No, I'm two. Fuck you.
No, I just keep trying to jump it. I am rapidly climbing up the ranks of this podcast at 3.
There, you get to
Mark
be number
Malek,
3.
hi.
Who does number 3 work for? Hello. Thanks for joining us. So yeah, it's Bram Stoker. Okay, how much am I going to do with that in this podcast? Are we going to do more
right now?
Are we going to do more fake Dracula voices than we do Schwarzenegger voices in the Schwarzenegger casts? Maybe not. Okay.
It's easier to do Dracula, at least.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Sure. 1992. A Coppola film. We're getting into the classy directors today, so no. Although this is such a weird career because he did so much in the 70s and then just kind of like started mostly making wine. Because once you get into the 90s, it's Rainmaker. Has he made anything in the past 25 years?
He mostly just comes online to slag off Marvel movies now, doesn't he?
I thought that was the other guy.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't even know Coppola was alive. Is he?
I think he is. He's just making wine. He probably makes a ton of money from the wine. That's why he's not making movies.
83 years old. Nice.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, that's old enough that you don't have to direct a movie unless you're Clint Eastwood. So, I guess that's cool.
It looks like he just produces things I've never heard of.
Yeah, that could be the case. So, it's up to something. But this movie, what did I do? I think we saw it opening night. And
I did.
This was the first time I'd seen Gary Oldman, so we were like, man, that was weird. That was a weird dude playing Dracula. There was that. Also, we felt like the movie was going to end at the 140 mark, like in the garden, but then it goes back to Transylvania and everything. So we felt like, oh crap, there's like an extra ending on this movie, which when your butt starts to hurt in the theater, it always that. Point being, we didn't come out loving it. We were not dead in loving this one the first time we saw it.
Also saw that opening night.
Yeah, I did remember getting this because it was one of the first letterbox DVDs, and that was cool. And also, I was starting to get properly film geek, so I really wanted to see it again for all the in-camera effects. One fun thing about this movie is basically all the effects are with 1900 technology, right? There's nothing digital. Everything's like done on set, practical, which is very cool. That's one of the big charms of this movie. Now for me, okay, Luke, what's your voyage with this creepy Halloween month movie that we're doing? Because I didn't say anything about that.
I think I first watched it with a girlfriend, so I don't know, like 2012 or something like that.
Did you drink her blood after watching it?
No. She was into it for the whole. I mean, neither of us found it scary, which I think was originally why we watched it. But then she was into it for all the vampire romance because she was into those. And then, I was just mesmerized by the visuals of it. Like, there's nothing else that looks like this film.
I mean, you could like take all the travel scenes and just put those together with the weird hues and the silhouette fighting. Just take all the weird stuff and make a like 10-minute mega mix. I think I would love that.
I think I watched this right after reading the book. I think that was why I watched it.
Oh, okay. That sounds more legit than my girlfriend was into Twilight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was why she agreed to watching it I think, but yeah. I remember, and the really reason I read the book was because I got a Kindle for Christmas. Didn't have any money to buy books, so I just bought a load of the sort of out of copyright classics that you can download for free.
Yeah, I think that's what most people did when they first got a Kindle or the app or whatever. So,
Yeah.
Mark, what's your voyage with
Well,
Dracula?
well, I was the child of two introverts, so I didn't get out a whole lot when I was a child. So when I hit about the age of 14 or 15, I was able to basically just kind of have some type of autonomy. So I just saw every R-rated or horror adjacent movie that came out in the theaters from like maybe 91 through 93 or 94. So it was like, yeah, I'm going to go see this immediately. I think I knew who Gary Oldman was, but I'm not sure. This came out before True Romance, right?
I think about the same time, I think, but yeah, honestly, I don't remember.
Was he in The Professional? Or I'm thinking of genre. No,
Jean
I don't
Reno.
know. Yeah, they look pretty similar, and they're kind of from the same era. But yeah, I saw it opening night, and then my second viewing was this week.
Oh, yeah.
Not really one of my favorite vampire movies of the 90s. I was more partial to like Innocent Blood, speaking of, French people.
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Vampire in Brooklyn, yeah. Because those were like a little bit edgier than this, but this is like a crazy film.
Interesting choices.
It seems
were made.
crazier now. Yes, it is an it feels too long and too short at the same time. Yeah, it feels kind of like a fever dream, which is, it's really interesting, but it also currently, I'm in my mid 40s. This strikes me as like an absolute like midlife crisis film, because it is like it's like, hey, maybe I can just go back and find my high school girlfriend again, and everything will be cool, and I'll kill whoever gets in my way. And then she
including my high school girlfriend.
And then you give up, and you're just like, yeah, all right, you can kill me, high school girlfriend. It really feels a lot like that, and it also feels a lot like it was trying to give women agency in the 90s, but agency now looks different, and it sort of seems now like it feels like Winona Ryder is sort of like the lady with the jock boyfriend who is talking him down the whole time. And that's what Dracula is. But maybe I'm jumping way ahead into the what do we think about the film?
Well, because
that's my relationship.
Because I'm lazy, I threw the plot in your corner. So I guess you could dish that out for us, and you could like say that in like broader relief or something.
Well, it is going to be long because there is no way to summarize this.
Okay, we'll let Luke judge if it's long or not.
Okay. Should I go ahead?
Yeah.
Do it.
One day in 1462, Vlad the Impaler, aka Dracula, returns from impaling dudes to find that his wife has died by suicide because she thought he was dead. He takes this very poorly and then renounces God, smashes up the chapel, and stabs a stone cross that ruptures and then dispenses blood, which he drinks to become a vampire. Flash forward to 1897, a solicitor named Jonathan Harker takes over an account for one Count Dracula of Transylvania from his colleague Renfield, who is busy screaming in Dr. Jack Seward's insane asylum. Harker travels to Transylvania to meet with the Count, who's now a weird old guy for some reason. When Dracula sees a picture of Harker's fiancée, Mina, he's convinced that she's a reincarnation of his dead wife, Elisabetta, and he begins preparations to have his brides keep Harker prisoner so he could be shipped to London along with Transylvanian soil to keep him alive. When Dracula goes to London, he transforms into a wolf and seduces Mina's best friend Lucy, and her behavior concerns her former suitors Quincy Morris and Dr. Seward, as well as current fiancé Arthur Holmwood, to summon Dr. Abraham Van Helsing, who immediately suspects a vampire is at work. Meanwhile, Dracula, looking hot again, stalks Mina in broad daylight and successfully begins seducing her. When Jonathan Harker finally escapes Dracula's castle, however, he sends word to Mina and she travels to Romania to marry him immediately. Dracula is not okay with this, so he bites Lucy and turns her into a vampire. Van Helsing, Holmwood, Seward, and Morris are forced to kill and decapitate Lucy the following night. Jonathan leads the other men to destroy the Transylvanian soil, while Dracula kills Renfield for warning Mina of his presence. He then visits Mina, who is mad at him about the whole Lucy thing, but also remembers her past life and then is suddenly pretty cool with him turning her into a vampire. But then the hunters burst into the bedroom and Dracula turns into a bunch of rats. Mina learns that Dracula is planning to escape through their psychic connection. Van Helsing manages to keep Mina's vampirism at bay and decapitates Dracula's brides and throws their heads off a cliff. And they ambush Dracula at his coffin, with Morris and Dracula both mortally wounded in the fight. Dracula and Mina skulk off to the chapel, and he asks her to finish the job, killing him and saving herself.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it.
Got it sound like a Jane Austen novel very well.
I know, that was a short version.
Just all the names and romantic intrigue, except for the words like kill and blood. I guess Dracula's not that, old. The novel's not too far removed from that sort of thing, is it?
I feel like when I usually do the summaries, I go too straight with it. So I try to at least throw some fun in it, some gay in it. Yes.
Yeah.
It's Pride Month, bitches.
So, actors, we've already done a bit of Oldman. Like I said, I didn't see True Romance for a few years after it came. That was not a opening night thing for me. So this was definitely my first time getting old.
Like
I said,
I love Gary Oldman in everything, but because he's constantly doing a Dracula accent and he's constantly caked in makeup, you can't say this is his best role.
No, it's like when I read an interview with him and he said I just wanted the chance to work with Coppola. That was pretty much why he did it. He had no real passion for the actual role itself. But you could argue that a lot of this is just Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins just fighting to steal the entire film.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Anthony Hopkins shows up late to do that, doesn't he? He doesn't even. Van Helsing doesn't show up till halfway through the film.
No, but he does narrate the opening and play a monk in the opening. So.
Oh, okay. Actually, I didn't catch him as a monk.
I did it until last night watching the film.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so but he's immediately screaming at everyone and trying to kiss every woman, and it's just kind of insane. He's just like a whirlwind.
Yeah, well, as soon as he shows up, he's all you can keep your eyes on.
But this must be prime Hopkins. This is a year after Silence, right? I posed the question, but that's correct.
Couple of years after.
Wasn't Silence
really?
91?
I thought it was 8 late. Okay.
You're thinking of Manhunt.
I'm wrong.
Okay.
Yes, probably.
So I mean, he's this is when you're when you first get to start being Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins or something.
So, no, it is 91. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't doubt my idiot savant movie knowledge.
The book was 1988.
So I want to get this out of the way before I forget. Luke, how would you pronounce the capital of Hungary? How would you pronounce Budapest?
Budapest? Why?
Because Keanu Reeves says Budapest.
Oh, Budapest.
And it was...
Oh, maybe I've been Americaning too long. Maybe I would have said Budapest.
Maybe. I was just curious. I mean, I'm not ruling that out that's an actual pronunciation, but I've just never heard that pronunciation before.
That is a thing that we do that Americans don't, is put that little news. Others I've forgotten, but yeah,
screwed.
It's something I've had to teach myself not to do anymore.
It's because the city is so beautiful. He nicknamed it Budapest himself. That's why.
Poor old Keanu Reeves trying so hard to do his British accent, he forgets to do any other acting in this film. It's got a bit of Ewan McGregor episode 1 vibes about him.
Except, McGregor had the excuse of green screen, where Keanu Reeves here definitely does not.
No.
Well, to me, it was like Ewan McGregor was trying to do an Alec Guinness in the first film, and then he just threw it out the window and then wasn't anymore, which maybe he should have always done. I don't know.
Well, we've already discussed my feelings on episode 1 on this podcast, so
Favorite Star Wars movie, right?
that's right. No, episode 2, which I've actually only seen that once, maybe twice. Maybe I like half saw it another time. That's like by far the one I've seen the least. Um, I've seen it less than I've seen Bram Stoker's Dracula now.
Yeah, me too. I've seen episode 2 twice and episode 1 and 3 each once.
Wow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've seen 3 a few times, but this is a real weird spot for Keanu because he really is just Bill at this point. I mean, we haven't even
Ted.
gotten like
Yeah,
I don't
he's
even think
Ted.
Point Blank was. Oh yeah, Ted. Thank you. Oh well, Bill's name comes first. So I thought of Bill first.
I think he was cast as Bill initially,
yeah,
and then they accidentally read each other's scripts.
that makes sense.
I'm sure you made that up, but it could totally be true.
No, I actually didn't. I wish I was that funny.
I had a great one of those yesterday. Someone made some comment about removing a spleen, and I just said like, well, you know, the spleen is the only organ that can survive outside the body for a week, and they all believed me point blank. And they're like, wow, why? And I was like, it's not true. I just made that up. But yeah, I managed to convince like 5 people.
Nice.
Are you sure it's not true?
I'm pretty sure, but I don't know what the fuck a spleen is or does.
I think it makes you angry. I.e., Dracula vents a lot of spleen in this movie.
I see.
I
Well,
think
his
it's
spleen
something-
can survive outside his body, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, his spleen's also dead, isn't it? So that like kind of like throws out the whole argument.
Hmm.
Where were we? Okay, he was Ted. Anyway, yeah, this was because I guess this was Keanu's first attempt to like get
Do a
outside of that
serious
sort
role?
of box. Yeah, Point Break, I guess, is about the same time. That would be a similar one of him doing that. A few years later, he did maybe a Midsummer's Night's Dream or something, and then he spent the '90s like trying to be like a legit actor until he was just like, screw it, The Matrix.
I
But,
just
like,
kind of
Point Break and Speed are both decent, but he also does basically just get to play Ted in those.
True. Yeah.
yeah. And action movies are just different. This is not. This is such a distant. And I'm not saying that those movies are lesser or anything like that, but this is just. I made a note that I was like, I don't think that Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder would get cast in this if it was made now. Like,
But
if,
people
They'd be
bring
too
up
old.
Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder a lot. But obviously, I really noticed Keanu's attempt at an accent and everything. But Winona Ryder, so many films have an American actress doing exactly that accent. I don't even notice it anymore. She sounds exactly the same as Keira Knightley in Pirates of the Caribbean.
So she gets
I
a
thought she
pass?
was kind of better than Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. I
she's
don't
way
think she
better.
is anywhere near as bad, but a lot of like articles and stuff lump them in as the same thing.
But I also read something that I didn't know, which is that apparently she brought this script to Coppola.
Yeah,
And
I
was
saw
like,
that.
hey, I want to do this. So maybe she just had way more of a personal like stake in this, which
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Well,
Was
and she got to be like in this epic romance with this immortal vampire, whereas Keanu Reeves just had to play like a time cuck.
Yeah, that's about right. Is Winona like a Nick Cage cousin or something?
No,
I
she
mean,
was
like,
involved in Godfather 3 and walked
I think
away.
she,
It's how
yeah, she
knew
backed
Coppola.
out, and then Sofia Coppola had to replace her, and then Sofia Coppola got like panned horribly at the time. I don't know if I've never seen Godfather 3 really, so
I haven't either. I have the
I
Blu-ray.
also
and I
haven't
never
actually.
got around to it. Not many
I don't
people
know.
have.
Let's
even
watch it
tried
for
to do that.
Halloween.
Next time we
Okay.
do a cheat month, let's do Godfather Part 3.
With vague memories of 1 and 2.
I mean, I watched them fairly recently, so
Yeah. Okay. It's been a while for me. But I know they recently did like a newer cut of that. I don't know if it improved anything.
I
but
think I heard it was good.
Matty has sat through the all 3 films as one film cut. So
Oh god, is that edited or is it just 9 hours long?
it's edited a bit, but it's pretty damn long.
is that
Jesus.
the one where they do it, put it in chronological order?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I remember the first movie I checked out from the library was The Godfather Part 1, and it was like 2 videotapes. It was a big giant box.
Oh yeah, I had the thick videotapes. I think all 3 of them had it. I'm not sure about 3. 2 definitely did because I think it's longer. This one was on one videotape, so that was cool.
Yeah.
A letterbox videotape. Is Dracula in your apartment, Luke?
Well, I thought I heard a doorbell, but I don't have that kind of doorbell, so I think I've just lost my mind.
Okay. Is there like a green mist floating into your apartment?
No, that's just Wario. He always does that.
Okay.
What if they just made this movie but with Wario instead of Dracula, and it was a follow-up to the Super Mario Brothers movie they're making right now?
Masterpiece. Best film ever made.
That would be incredible.
Is 83-year-old Coppola directing it?
I've crossed oceans of time to be with you.
There are
Renfield as Waluigi.
There are tons of people in this movie, of course. Carrie Ills is of course always fun as I mean, we're talking cuck. I guess he doesn't have any like relationships going on in this movie, but he just is one anyway. Oh no, he is. He's fiance.
I love that almost everything he does in the movie is just burst into rooms and start screaming at people. It's like, what have you done? Great.
That's living the dream, especially as an actor. Because what is acting if it's not just screaming at people?
Yeah, there's some Shatner-esque stuff, obviously intentionally put in by Coppola in here, and I really appreciated it.
Yeah, I find, I guess because I don't know all of these 90s minor actors, the whole posse around Lucy entirely forgettable.
Yeah, well, they kind of were all the same character. It's one of those, except for Van Helsing, who probably would have been just the same character, except for Anthony Hopkins was just yelling a lot and running around and decapitating people.
In the book, their character is just, one is a doctor, one is a fiance, one is an American. And the film doesn't really give them any more than that.
I would go with the most spot on casting in this film is Renfield, which is just absolutely Tom Waits. You can't. That's a match made in hell.
I'd forgotten about that.
He's great, but something about the performance, the visual effects style, the camera quality, he really felt like he was in Batman Forever to me.
Well, this is not.
He's a lot of Dutch angles in his scenes.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not sure how well you know him, but he's not an actor. He's a singer who sings like the Cookie Monster.
Okay.
with like
he's like one
like
of those
bone percussion.
Yeah, pots, like banging on pots and pans, and he goes, and that's all of his songs, pretty much. He's got a dedicated fan base.
I'll send you some of the more whack Tom Waits. Actually, he's fun because he was like kind of a singer-songwriter in the 70s, played a piano. Then he just went nuts and started making like, music for like those Betty Boop cartoons or something,
Well, we're all waiting for the day that happens to you.
But
I start making Betty Boop music.
Yeah.
I think I probably have.
The Tom Waits just booping.
I hate to leave all correction over here, but Tom Waits did have a lead role in a Jim Jarmusch movie like 10 years before this.
He did. Yeah. He did, but he still wasn't. It's like how Bob Dylan had the starring role in Master Anonymous, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he does like spend a lot of that film just playing harmonica and singing songs.
Thunder on Space in the Place. They're the star, but they're not necessarily acting.
That was straight up him getting exploited by a college student, even though it's great, but
Well, they still got the orchestra still got like 20 minutes to jam in that movie. So
yeah, no, it is a masterpiece and a wonderful film, but it's
one of the all-time best destructions of Earth.
For sure. I mean, yeah, that's right up there with Avengers Endgame. I think they destroyed the Earth in that. I can't remember, but yes, great film, but also.
Just one more little acting note that one of Dracula's brides is an early role from Monica Bellucci, which I know she's in a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Matrix trilogy.
Yeah. I mean,
for one.
Tons of James Bond. Yeah. The Man Who Sold His Skin. That sounds intense. Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh. Yeah, now that I mention it,
as well.
She's oddly typecast as women who sexually assault Keanu Reeves.
Is Dracula the first Merovingian?
I guess so.
Are we just in a Matrix here?
I wonder how that was on set of that Matrix when he's like, "Didn't we already do this?"
She's probably like, "We meet again," and then just like looked at him, and then he was like,
20 minutes.
Whoa.
Oh,
did I meet you in Budapest?
Did I miss a minor woe in this? I feel like there must be one somewhere.
No,
there is no woes.
You can't woe in that accent.
There's no way.
I say. That's a few woes in this film.
He could have said WOE, but I don't think he even did that.
Whoa.
Woe is me.
Whoa is me.
Okay, it doesn't really work then.
No.
This is a bit of a decent monster movie with the many forms of Dracula. I mean, he goes werewolf for a while. He goes.
That's why I brought it to the table right now.
Okay. Okay. Please extrapolate, I guess.
Well, the reason I bring this film up at this point in time is over on sister podcast Monster Mash. We're about to do the Dracula-based monster, and yeah, this is not the best adaptation of Dracula. I don't think. I think if you want spooks, the Christopher Lee one or even the Bela Lugosi one's probably better. But for just seeing Dracula transform into wolves and goblins and beasties and mist, this one's pretty up there. And again, because it's all costumes and practical effects, it looks great.
Maybe I should sit in the conversation. What for you? What is the best Dracula film? There doesn't seem to be like a real definitive one. I'm
Dracula 2000.
Take the hipster.
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
I was going to take a slightly hipster choice and go for Spanish Dracula. Luke,
it's still Lugosi, but in Spanish, right?
No, it's not Lugosi at all. They would use the sets at night.
Oh yeah, that's
it.
Yeah.
And the Mexican crew would come in. I think they were actually all Mexican. I don't think it was Spanish, but they come in and they had different actors, and apparently they just made it better. Well, they did. I've seen it.
I remember there was some weird twist where it's basically the same film, and it's the same sets and everything.
Yeah, other than Lugosi is a fantastic Dracula, the Spanish language version is actually probably better in every other regard. So yeah. Also, I think the English version one has the weird thing of like not having a score at all, which makes a 30s movie like that much drier. No Country for Old Men, you can like get away with it, right? But 1930 Dracula is a bit of a reach.
That was a choice, I think. But when I saw No Country for Old Men, I'm like, oh my God, now everyone's going to be making movies with no soundtrack, and then no one ever did it again. My favorite version of Dracula, is just Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Oh, you beating me to it because I was gonna do a whole point of asking. So Matt, what is the surname of Dracula's nemesis?
Simon.
What's that? Because basically I was waiting for you both to say Van Helsing.
Van Helsing, right?
And then I could be like, no, it's Belmont. The Belmont family of Dracula's nemesis.
Yeah. Well, yeah, me saying Simon was a little bit lame, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I found this out reading about a game that I didn't play very much, but Dracula in Castlevania universe's actual name is Matthias Conquist.
Yeah.
Conquist? And I'm like, I read this just randomly the other day. I was like, what? What is going on? He's a whole other guy.
My favorite is that he's got his son, Alucard.
Yeah,
which is just Dracula backwards.
Yeah. That's like Japanese love. Like, I think that was already a thing before Castlevania, but Japanese love, like just spelling things backwards. Whoa.
Yeah.
I should have named my kid Wet Ham. Actually, that is my my wife's name. Is just her aunt's kanji's flipped.
All right.
Yeah, I love at this point, I think to me, the canonical Dracula is the one from Castlevania.
Yeah, that's the one I've spent the most time with.
Yeah, right.
Like
even me,
300, 400 hours with that Dracula, probably.
I almost bought Mobile Symphony of the Night last week, but then the reviews were like the controls eat shit, so I didn't.
Any game that's meant to have buttons, I do not want to play on phone.
Well, also I was like,
Agreed.
if I really want to play Castlevania, I'll ask for my DS back. I
Right.
think you have like 3
Have
of
you
them
played
in there.
Bloodstained? Have you
I
played
haven't
Bloodstained
yet. No.
It's good. I think early on it might have been kind of broken, but I played it.
That's
on
why
PC
I haven't
and
got
it
around
was
to playing
great.
it. Yeah.
On PC, it was awesome. I had 99.8% of it. I went all into the corners of the map to unlock every part of the map. I had a great time with it. I went two-handed sword. You do a bunch of different builds. You do like kung fu and stuff like that.
Most recently, I've been playing the old Castlevania 2, which has almost put me off
Oh my
Castlevania
God.
for a while.
Oh my God. Do you know what's funny is that I beat that when I was a kid, like for a rental period, and my whole
Whoa.
life I was like, but this is the thing. I had a Nintendo Power subscription, and there was just a poster in that just showed you what to do.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten that I just basically cheated.
Well, that's not cheating. That's how those games are designed to be played.
Yeah, I remember doing
Yeah.
the same thing with Castlevania too.
Like they
Yeah.
make the game super obscure, so you have to buy the Nintendo Power essentially.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
kneeling
think,
next to a wall.
I guess for people my age and Mark's age, the main trauma is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles water level.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not so
That's
bad.
one of those where I think most of us just quit when that happened.
That's
They
my
were just-
point. That's why it
well,
was so
I'm-
traumatic, because you're having such a good time with the turtle game, and you just
I kind of knew it was bad before I bought it, and I think I paid like $10 or $12 for it, and I was just like, well, I'm just gonna eat this loss.
What if they just bump their shells onto the electric things? Shouldn't that be enough to insulate them? They could like ride through the level on their shells.
I would like for you to go back in time and tell this to the developers.
Yeah,
tell
and
that
they
to
would
them.
say, "Look, dude, we've only got 4 levels. We can't make it easy, or the kids are going to finish the game."
We have 2 weeks to ship this game. It's barely done at all.
Get out of
but-
it, dumbass time traveler.
I'm a Japanese
getting-
salary man. I find this whole idea of a Ninja Turtle very offensive. I don't care.
Yeah, it's a bad omen here, actually. But getting back to Dracula, this version of Dracula, specifically, I know that usually I'm a fan of like a tight story and a like defined rules. I love a movie that is full of ass pulls for powers, and this is what this is. It's like Dracula can be a wolf. He can have a magic shadow. He could control wolves. You know, I love that. Like, it's just someone who's just like, yeah, let's just have him do whatever. Have him do whatever suits the plot. So
This is
a lot like
the Eric Cartman of Dracula, where he gets all the powers.
He
It's
has
like,
got
have
a
you
lot
ever-
of powers, but nonetheless, I would still kick his ass in 2 minutes flat in Castlevania.
have either of you seen Night Watch or Day Watch?
Oh, is that
Oh,
the sort of Russian
yeah.
movies?
Yes.
I've seen them on the shelf of the local game store like every day for a year, but I never bought them.
That's the entire premise behind those films, is that there's a bunch of like vampires or whatever, and they can just do anything. There's one scene where 2 of them are having an argument sitting on an airplane that's taking off, and one of them's like, I'm not letting this plane take off. It just goes, and then the other one's like, yes, you are. I mean, yes, it is. And then it just keeps like almost taking off and then not taking off because they're controlling it somehow. There's some of them turn into animals.
And the arguments
some
in
reason.
Russian.
Yes, it's
Oh,
entirely
right.
in Russian. But that's
Oh,
what
right.
Star Wars Episode 9 reminded me the most of, was Night Watch, because that film is also just completely full of ass
don't know-
force powers.
Isn't there only 8 Star Wars movies?
Yeah, Mark must be counting Rogue One or something because they only
Okay.
made 8.
Yeah.
You're right. They
ones.
only made Episode 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait.
If you're cutting out one,
I don't
you might
even
as
know
well
what
cut.
joke I was trying to make. Eh,
They made a holiday special. I'll give
they
them
just
that.
made Episode 4 8 times.
That's too much truth there, man. No, not really.
They did make episode 4 3 times at least.
It's also
that's
called
true.
it's called Star Wars. It's not called A New Hope. It's called Star Wars.
Okay, I agree.
There you go.
Why not? And this
We
one's
talk
just
about
Dracula.
Star
There's
Wars
no
so
Bram
much
Stokers.
more on episodes where we're not talking about Star Wars.
That's like that's
That's why we
Isn't
haven't
that-
bothered doing a Star Wars episode in like 87 years. Oh, except for the one where he did
you
Star
just
Wars.
did one like a week ago.
I said except for the one where I did Star Wars. We did
Okay.
Star Wars, yeah. So
Have you done Spaceballs yet?
that's
No, we had this plan to do a Star Wars month where we were going to do Spaceballs,
Star
the
Crash?
Hidden Fortress, Howard the Duck, and Knives Out, and that would be our
Nice.
Star Wars month.
I thought that was supposed to be a trade secret. Oh well.
Well, no, now we've
that's on
teased
there.
it so that if anyone actually cares, they'll get us to do it at some point.
Okay, that's cool.
I would like that.
Now, I will say that this has much better design than Castlevania with the silhouettes and the all the. You can't have like weird floating misty colored smoke in Castlevania. You know, not DS technology.
Actually,
I take
Mist could
massive
pass.
umbrage with this, Matt. Castlevania
Mist.
looks
Mist
ace.
could pass. Mist could pass. There's lots of mist. You turn into mist. The mist
Yeah.
is canon.
But it's not like the mist in here. I mean, it's not like amorphic flowing mist. It's
Okay,
mean, this
maybe
film
the
does
graphics aren't
have
as good.
extraordinary design. I'm not going to argue with that.
I
But
know.
don't go
I'm trying to-
insulting Castlevania to make your little point.
Yeah,
I mean-
seriously, criticize the mist in Dracula 2000.
I mean,
There is
I'm sure I would enjoy playing any Castlevania, including Simon's Quest, more than I would whatever game came out with this movie. If I'm sure there was
Oh,
one.
I think there was one. I think I've seen videos about it.
I mean, that has to
It
be
might even have been
hot
like a
mess.
shitty CDI thing.
Oh, like a PC thing.
No, this,
Oh, wow.
Did you? What did you
Uh,
find?
no,
Mega
yeah, no, it's on
Drive.
every machine.
Yeah, it was a wide release.
Okay.
Yeah, it basically just looks like a
You-
shitty version of Castlevania. Oh, it's got those Mortal Kombat digitized graphics, so you're playing like a GIF of Keanu Reeves.
Wow. Yeah, this looks like interesting. This looks kind of like garbage, but interesting.
I'm pretty
garbage.
sure there's an Angry Video Game Nerd episode on it if anyone wants to
Okay.
get a taste. Because I think that's why I knew it existed.
Okay. Anyway, that was
Ooh.
where my my controversial take came from, because I'm just saying for this, I think this is the best looking Dracula movie.
Yeah, that's like I said, that's what I love about this film is it just looks amazing.
Lots of jade.
But that's pretty
green,
much all
mint
it's
green.
got.
It-
And
it-
lots of reds and interesting costumes and everything.
Like when I saw this, I guess I was 12 or something, 12 years old, and Vlad's armor just confused me. I found his armor confusing because it's all like red and stuff.
Hmm.
Just
Yeah, it's like blood.
it is like
yeah, it
blood.
looks like muscle or veins or something.
Yeah, I think that threw me off when I first saw this, because I was 12. I was coming and expecting to see like Christopher Lee Dracula, and then we get the old dude. and-
Hmm.
oh yeah, the Simpsons
I
did
feel
a
like
good one on this.
I feel like I knew what I was in for. It feels like sort of a product of its time where I know this came out before The Island of Dr. Moreau, but it's like, I hate to like raise that specter, but it feels kind of like a similar weirdly like bloated thing.
But it's a
I-
case of very deliberately not being like previous Draculas.
Mm-hmm.
And like
And,
by going so far to avoid them, it just ends up being some weird territory at times.
Yeah, for sure. It's like the parody of it The Simpsons did is almost like burned into my head so much that it was hard like chasing that out to watch the film like it was new. But
But in
Also-
the 90s, there was like The Simpsons did the parody. You already mentioned like Dead and Loving It.
hmm.
But I feel like that lasted for 5-10 years. And now every time you see Dracula, it's back to the previous Draculas. Like this
Yeah,
image of it didn't like replace the old Dracula apart from for that brief period.
I think
It's like
this is
now
the
we have
case-
to. I was like, so now we have to have vampire movies that are so different that it's like they can't even do Dracula anymore. But like, I don't know, you're gonna see a Blade movie before you see another Dracula movie. If
But
they
there
ever
was
come
that
back there.
BBC Dracula a couple of years ago. I haven't seen it yet. Because it was done by Moffat, like the Sherlock team.
Oh, okay.
And apparently, usually he does 2 great seasons, then a terrible season. And this show condensed it down to 1 season where it's 2 great episodes and a terrible episode, is what I've heard. So
interesting.
Christopher Lee did those 2 death metal albums just before dying.
I mean, that's good.
I mean, that's a complete non sequitur, but yes.
I just feel like
immortal.
I just feel like that's like kind of like what we'd get from a real life Dracula.
Matt just did the thing that Matt does constantly in life and work, where he stopped listening to our conversation, had his own conversation in his head, and then expected us to be following that one.
Well, allow me to do the same. It's like you can make vampire movies without putting Dracula in them pretty easily. In fact, I mean, the objectively worst Blade movie is when they decided to put Dracula in it.
Yeah.
Even though I think that had a lot more going against it than just the fact that Dracula was in it. But, you know.
I mean, Wesley Snipes was barely in it. I don't think he remembers making that film.
Have you read Patton Oswalt's like whole thing about that film?
I haven't read Patton Oswalt, but I've seen Ryan Reynolds talking about it and how he could just say whatever he wanted because he knew Wesley Snipes was not going to react.
Yeah, Wesley Snipes just put notes everywhere that said that there were like passive aggressive post-it notes about things, and they were always signed Blade. Like you're supposed to refer to him as Blade. And there's something about someone eating a sandwich or something, but then also he punched the director in the face at some point, and then it was something like they had to be separate. It sounded like an absolute nightmare. And also, I remember this in real time, was that starting with the first movie, he would do a lot of interviews. It's like, Blade's going to have a sex scene. That's right. Blade's going to get laid. I saw him say that exact thing. Blade will get laid several different times. And apparently he was very upset that there was no sex scene in Blade 3.
It is a catchy phrase.
So that was part of why he was just completely enraged,
because he wanted that to be the tagline for the movie. That's why.
It makes me wonder, like, was he a virgin? Like, what was up? You know, like, that's so
he didn't know that when you do sex scenes in films you don't actually fuck. It was like, this is my ticket.
Maybe someone explained that to him in a meeting. That what, Brown Bunny or something like that has that.
There's been a few.
But yeah, but I imagine someone explaining it to him in a boardroom, and then he's just like, I'll be in my trailer. He's just never talking to anyone ever again.
Blade's gonna be jerking it.
Yeah, I have to say, as a non-virgin, I cannot imagine being like upset about not getting a sex scene in a movie where I'm paid like $8 million to be in it. I cannot imagine that.
He'd probably worked up a 6-pack. Hard to get a 6-pack. That's why people are impressed by them.
I've got a 6-pack. It's just under all this.
I mean, I've got a 6-pack in my refrigerator.
Wee.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got like a 24-pack of Dr. Peppers. That's what I'm drinking right now.
I got a 24-pack, son.
I have a 1-pack. I've gotten it by drinking 24 Dr. Peppers.
Yeah, this is a good brag. I got a 1-pack. Okay.
Question: Dr. Pepper or Dr. Van Helsing?
Dr. Pepper. Can you imagine? Could you imagine like just a movie where it's just Dr. Pepper versus Dracula? I don't even know what that means.
The Pope accidentally blesses a crate of Dr. Peppers.
Francis Ford Coppola needs to come out of
retirement. They get delivered to Transylvania, and all the vampires are drinking these Dr. Peppers and exploding. That's the film I want to see.
What does Dr. Pepper look like? I'm thinking like an Orville Redenbacher.
No. There's no human Dr. Pepper. It's just a crate of Dr. Peppers defeats the vampires.
Oh, okay. I want a human Dr. Pepper too. I want both. Like he comes back for his sodas, you know? He's like, those are my sodas. They have my name on them.
Or every vampire that drinks it turns into Dr. Pepper and then fights the other vampires.
They could have a burly man fight. Yeah, sure. With a bunch of like guys that look like Orville Redenbacher.
And then eventually we'll get to the sequel where it's Dr. Pepper versus Colonel Sanders.
the fast foodiverse.
So Colonel Sanders
still be better than the Dark Universe.
Yeah, probably. I didn't see the one movie that was the Dark Wait, did they do more than one?
The Mummy
just
was
The
the only
Mummy?
one, and then Invisible
Yeah.
Man got reworked into a completely different film that was far better than it would have been if it had been part of that shit.
That was awesome.
I just saw the poster for the upcoming Nosferatu. Anyone see that?
Yeah, they replaced Willem Dafoe was going to play Nosferatu, but now it's going to be Stellan Skarsgård. Or wait, Peter Sarsgaard?
I think it's
the
a
Skarsgård that was
Peter.
the Northman. Northman Sarsgaard.
That's his name, yeah.
Yeah, they're all the same dude.
I love Robert Eggers. I can't wait. I'll watch anything he makes.
That was just the first time I seen a poster for a while. I was like, that grabbing you, I guess. I guess because it's such a 20s image, because pre-Lugosi, I guess Dracula is nastier, right? Lugosi makes him somewhat suave. Christopher Lee makes him very suave. And
Gary Oldman somehow
crosses
does all three at once.
Yeah, he crosses vast oceans to make you wet. I mean, he's said a couple of times in interviews, he's like, I just did the movie so I could say that line. I'm like, all right.
Okay, yeah, props to that. Sure, why not?
He just wanted to practice it so he could say it in bars.
Apparently, he said a bunch of really disturbing things to people on the set of the film, and they were like mad at him for 10 years.
Well,
Winona Ryder.
Apparently, also he was told to do that by Coppola, so you can't put it all on him.
Nope.
From what I understand with Gary Oldman, he's not a good person to ask. So, what do you think?
Yeah,
he seems just one of those people who you can't talk to until after the movie's done, because he'll just be Dracula the whole time. Like, I don't know if that's
I don't think he's like a full-on method guy. He's just takes it very, very seriously, and also just seems to have some pretty bad opinions outside of his films. But that's cool. He's good in films.
I don't know anything about that, but maybe I'll just not.
I've heard like very vague things, and then decided not to read anymore because I like Gary Oldman in films, and I don't want to know that he's a cunt.
Yeah. I think the last thing I saw him in was that Planet of the Apes movie, where he was pretty much the best thing.
Oh yeah. He's good in that.
Like the whole like thing where he's holding the detonator and kind of grinning or smiling like desperately was just amazing. I don't know.
Well, we've started our apathon, so we'll get there eventually now.
Are you doing the first 5 and then the new ones? Okay.
We did the.
Have you already done the Tim Burton one? Yeah.
We did
a long time ago. So
I never really watched that one.
I've got it on Blu-ray now, so
I saw like a bit of it, and I was like, man, these apes look amazing. And then I just didn't finish.
That was pretty much our conclusion. Was this film looks great, but is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm always a little bit fascinated by just like hit ratio of series. Where I think Planet of the Apes just has a better one than your average.
It's pretty high.
I perfectly happy to watch any of them except the Burton one. And again, that one
even
still
the Burton
nice,
one I watch it with the sound off.
Yeah, I'd take that over like the worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, which until kind of recently that was a really solid series, and they started kind of cranking out garbage. But
well, have you listened to our Predator episode yet, Mark?
Yes, I have.
Because I made a bit of a hot take about hit ratios in that one.
Oh, actually, yes. I had something that I was straight up going to message you, but now I'm going to put it in this podcast.
Go on.
I truly believe, here's the ultimate detour non sequitur, has nothing to do with the movie we were talking about, that if James Cameron had directed Predator 2 instead of Aliens, then Alien would have had a better hit ratio, because whenever James Cameron does a sequel in his like prime, he completely salted the earth and destroyed any future hope for anything. Because and that even extends to Arnold Schwarzenegger's career, because nothing after True Lies was anything like anywhere near as good as that. I think he just makes these perfect epic movies that you cannot follow.
Yeah, you can't follow Terminator 2, you can't follow Aliens.
And even Avatar might have killed John Carter for all I know. I mean, you might not be able to do that anymore.
Yep.
We'll see how Avatar 2, the wettening goes. I don't think that's actually the name of it.
Avatar 2, The Shape of Water.
I was going to throw out the idea, like, how does Dracula, because Dracula looks great, Planet of the Apes, Burton looks great. Neither of them are fantastic movies. I think this one's a lot better though. I do have some notable.
It isn't a
hate for
bad movie
certain
at all.
Maybe maybe it's just like you get all these amazing images, lots of cool
Well,
filmmaking
that's
techniques, but then everything else is real pedestrian, and we get
the
some bad
90s
physics.
was just this height of great stuff on camera before they stopped putting things on camera. So you get these movies that do look incredible.
Like I think
For
when I
sure, it was
bought this
like
on a VHF, it was kind of like, oh, this is the last like big, maybe this is the last big budget analog movie.
Mm.
well, I mean, Independence Day came out like 4 years after this. So I mean, that was
That's
mostly
still
not.
mostly practical, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
okay.
like it was on like CGI was on the table at this point, but I don't think it flipped to like we have to do at least something in CGI until like 98, 99.
I
And
mean,
even that,
guess
like,
I guess the charm of this is that it goes even more retro. Like, when you see the
Mm.
train in the background, there's a book. They had to like actually set that shot up. They didn't like composite anything. So that's pretty like, and then there's a
Yeah,
fade. I'm
that
like,
stuff
oh, I
all
guess they just
looks.
had to. And yeah, and when you think about like, oh, there's a fade in the background, but the book's still there, which I guess means they had to like just put in exactly the same space and film something else. I don't know. That's
Hmm.
impressive stuff. So film, maybe Coppola was so involved in the nuts and bolts, he, forgot to like direct the actors and get the script under control and stuff.
Well, based on this and like Godfather Part 3, he seems to have that Michael Bay thing of he just hires good actors he doesn't have to direct. And if an actor can't do that, then he's not giving him anything.
Because what does he do after this? He does Jack, doesn't he? Which is like a pretty large steaming turd. Um, and then he does the Rainmaker, a Grisham novel. It's like, which actually is pretty good. That movie's good, but it is like just a weird run of movies. Dracula, Jack, and the Rainmaker.
it sounds like three weird things walk into a bar.
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't know.
that's Coppola's later career, apparently.
And does a lot of producing, which I guess that sort of looks like that sort of tapered off in like 10 years ago.
I think that means he has money and is willing to put it in places, but please don't bother me anymore.
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
making wine and drinking it.
I looked at his Wikipedia. Apparently, he's still working on Megalopolis, but let's see if it ever comes out. Which is a film that he had ready to go, and then 9/11 happened and got it cancelled.
Did you say
Wow.
9/11?
It's about New York getting destroyed.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I've never heard of this. Wow. Looks like they've got an interesting cast lined up.
Of actors from 20 years ago. Did they film? They didn't film
John
it.
Voight.
No, it just had a script.
Okay.
Somehow John Voight is still hireable for some reason. Wow.
John Voight
Wow.
and Anthony Hopkins in this. I can't believe this film's like 30 years old because he's exactly the same as he is in Thor and Transformers.
I feel like he's a little bit more like
He's more
muscular, but not different. Yeah, not very different. If have you ever seen a film called Magic?
just Magic. No,
It's just called Magic. I randomly saw it on Shudder. It was like the earliest Anthony Hopkins movie I've ever seen. It was like 1975.
wow.
And it's like he's a ventriloquist whose dummy kills people. I mean, watch it for October. It's really fun. He still looked like an old person then. So
Right.
it's like he
He's
just
one of
has
those
that
guys.
old
Yeah,
guy.
I cannot
Yeah.
picture a young Anthony Hopkins.
I
Yeah.
just did a podcast yesterday, which was we talked about Hook some. We were doing Peter Pan and Hook, and it's funny. Maggie Smith is in there as the aged Wendy, and I was like, why does she look exactly the same age as she does now? But it turned out they actually did like add aging makeup to her in 1991, but it looks exactly like she does now.
Oh, they just
So I
nailed
was
it.
like,
Yeah.
I was like getting my mind broken. I'm like, but she looks like this. Has she just been a really old lady for 30 years? So yeah.
It's hard to do old person makeup. I mean, the film X, which I saw earlier this year, it was
Okay.
pretty good, except the old people looked super fake.
Well, props to the Hook
They
team
weren't.
for Maggie Smith. Old
Yeah.
Dracula looking a little weird here.
I mean, it
get
was a
my comic,
choice.
but
It's
did
a
it take
choice.
The Sims? did it take The Simpsons to make that look actually become iconic? I think the movie itself didn't do it, but once you got Mr. Burns in it, it kind of like sealed
Yeah,
the
you
deal.
might be right.
He does look like Mr. Burns in the movie. I mean, not that far of a stretch. I wonder whose choice that was. I bet someone just brought it to Francis Ford Coppola and he was just cool.
I was reading some of the behind the scenes stuff, and he was just getting all these artists and saying, "Bring me the weirdest shit you can think of. Make it weird. Make it look different." So that's just what happened.
I mean, I was kind of Fifth Elementing it.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Fifth Element, they got in like Gautier to do like the fashion of the future.
That's true. That actually looks like less weird than this does. Except maybe
if I had the bod, I would totally dress like everyone in the Fifth Element.
Same.
I just want to go around like an open vest and a tie over my naked chest. That's the look.
I do really like occasionally just seeing pictures from fashion shows when it seems like people are trying so hard that they're just like doing something that's completely grotesque, like just eyeballs or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
I like it when they design clothes you can't actually walk in.
Yeah, or if it's just somebody like, or someone like Lady Gaga just makes a meat dress because, like, because fuck you, I guess.
Yeah.
Here's a meat dress. Probably stinks, but
I was about to say it would be a smelly one. So it's exactly a 30-year-old film now. Okay. So I guess we should discuss how it's holding up in the modern. I'm gonna say because of the filmmaking techniques, it probably rates better now than when it came out. Still not, and also just being like a notable take on a notable director's career, not the best take, but like it's more interesting to watch now than it was in 1992, I think.
Yeah, like there hasn't been anything since this came out that looks like this. So just for like visuals and looking at it, this film is still well worth a watch.
And really, it's like if there was a ding against it, it would be that the editing is a little bit like choppy, but that has actually become pretty commonplace as we have films that are just sort of thrown together because Marvel says it's out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it actually holds up really well, like compared to
Marvel films are edited before they film any footage.
Yeah. I heard that. I think Black Panther, it was like they CGI'd the fight of 2 Black Panthers at the end before they even found a director for the film. Like they just were like, yeah, well, this is what's going to happen. But anyway, I think this is it's a more coherent movie than X-Men Apocalypse or something, for sure. And it's much better to watch. Sure. I mean, I'm just thinking of like the craziest, most jarringly edited, thrown together superhero film, but better in every way than that film.
I guess like it's a thing where like not everything coalesces well, so it's not like a great movie, but you can tell they were like at least trying to make a great movie, so some of the elements truly are great. In the end,
I mean, if it's going to be a fever, I was going to say, if it's going to be a fever dream, then why not a movie about a guy who hypnotizes you and stuff? Yeah, it's appropriate.
Because I'm thinking of like I usually refer to my favorite fever dream movie as being Coppola's Apocalypse Now. I hate the redo, not because it's bad, but because it kills that element of Apocalypse Now, which is the whole thing I want. So, you mentioning that you're like raising my book just by calling it a fever dream a little bit, because that is the element I guess I like the best of this. So.
But I kept thinking the whole time I was watching it, this would make a perfect double feature with Last Temptation of Christ, which came out like a year later.
Year earlier, I think. 2 years earlier, 3 years earlier. 88.
There we go.
Matt, no one likes it when you do this.
Oh, you're right. It did come out earlier. So maybe this is like Coppola trying to do The Last Temptation of Dracula. No, it's very different. But still, it has that same kind of this movie feels like a rock opera that doesn't have music in it, and so did Last Temptation of Christ. So it's...
The Passion of the Dracula, starring Jim Cassavell.
Can you imagine if it was just a Dracula movie where it's just they capture Dracula and just like flail him for 2 hours and just like
Yes, I can
Like,
imagine
who is
that.
that for? Yeah, it's just for parents who like really hate their goth kids and just want to see Dracula just like suffer.
Like, do goth kids still idolize Dracula? Is that still the thing? Did
I
they
hope
ever?
so. I really hope so. It's just like a big poster of Dracula in their room.
But it's the Mr. Burns one.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Dracula 2000 one.
That's my Dracula.
I'm
Matt, Dracula 2000 or Blues Brothers 2000?
Blues
Oh
Brothers
my
2000
God.
has that kid, so Dracula.
dude, I haven't even seen Dracula 2000. It has to be better than Blues Brothers 2000. Has to be.
Yeah, for sure. Any final thoughts on this one? I'm gonna jump in the shower soon.
No, I
while
think
the
I've gotten all my
podcast is
thoughts
rolling.
out.
Yep, Dracula rules. He crossed oceans of blood to spit blood and drink blood.
So, Mark, do you have your Halloween costume?
Yeah, I have an inflatable dinosaur
Sick.
costume. Yeah, those are fun.
That's gonna make it hard to move around, isn't it?
The t-shirt today is T-Rex hates push-ups.
Nice. Well, I'm sure I cannot do push-ups in an inflatable dinosaur costume. But I haven't tried. Actually, I can't do push-ups outside of an inflatable dinosaur costume.
I was very happy to learn that I can still do clap push-ups.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm taking this week to try and throw myself back into working out at all since I'm in worse shape than I've been in 10 years.
I'm in the worst shape for 10 years. Yeehaw.
Yeah,
But
since the
more-
last time I saw you, Matt,
Oh,
for
okay.
sure.
Okay. But worse than 2 years ago when you're just sitting in your house?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, you could go jogging or something.
Yep.
So that's where you can find Mark jogging.
You can find me
the-
on the jogging on the
Find Mark in the street and
internet.
follow him.
Find me in the street, stalk me, drag me behind a bush, drink my blood, and become a vampire.
No, you want exercise, so they should start chasing you, so you'll start
Yeah.
running.
Find me on Strava and then murder me in a bush and drink my blood. That's my plug.
Okay, that's definitely the first time we've gotten that plug. Luke, do you have a more sensible one for us?
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at MLSFS Pod, or also on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that shit. Make sure you check out Monster Mash this week for the episode on Malzeno, where I might actually go into some detail about Dracula instead of just talking about Castlevania and boobies and stuff. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, you want to find other podcasts by me and Matt, you can go to patreon.com/podcastios.
All right. Oh, I had a good idea and I forgot to set it up. So
Four.
okay. I forgot to do it. I was going to look up the creepiest Bible quotes I could and then read those in a Dracula voice.
That is the most non sequitur of them all, I think.
Okay, well,
But it would be fun.
Maybe this is the bonus content, right? That I stick onto the Patreon. Creepy Bible. Oh, well, I'm gonna see if this even works because I'm not sure. Like typing creepy Bible verse.
Creepy Bible verses.
There's got to be some creepy ones in there.
Oh my God, this thumbnail of a woman with her eyes bulging open is terrifying. So the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and you will eat dust all the days of your life.
This is not non sequitur. This
Doesn't
goes
work.
well.
It doesn't work.
Here, this one works. This one works.
Okay.
If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life crippled than having your two hands to go into hell, into the unquenchable fire. Sorry, I don't know what accent I was doing. It wasn't quite Dracula.
The Bible is just a bunch of bullshit that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I know. I
Yeah,
know it's a
like,
hot take.
You ever sat down and tried to read it? Fuck me.
Yes, I have. And it was like when I was much younger.
Yeah.
What the? I was a voracious reader as a kid, so I'm like, I want to read this the thing everybody says I should read, and it was like, I can't. Like, Tolkien was hard enough. The Bible was like a million times more difficult.
Yeah.
Not when you do quotes like this in your Transylvanian accent, if I hit it right. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body in hell. This is how it will be at the end of the age. Come on, this is not non sequitur. This is gold.
The
folks.
second angel poured out his bowl on the sea, and it turned into blood like that of a dead person, and every living thing in the sea died.
Yeah.
It's just nonsense. I mean, there's the word death is in there and blood, but it's like, what?
Children's Bible stories starring Dracula. That's gonna be my thing. Okay. Yeah, I do.
You also took the fine jewelry I gave you, the jewelry made of gold and silver, and you made for yourself male idols and engaged in prostitution with them.
And now I will suck your blood.
In a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immortality and perversion. They serve as an example of those who suffer the punishment of eternal fire.
Your breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. Your breasts are like clusters of fruit. My lover is to me a sachet of myrrh resting between my breasts. I am a fool, and my breasts are like towers. I searched for the horniest Bible quotes.
Now I'm like straight up just looking for 50 Shades of Grey quotes.
My beloved put his hand by the hole of the door, and my bowels were moved for him.
Don't get your panties in such a twist and give me back mine.
Is that in the Bible?
That was 50 Shades of Grey.
If
I'm
anyone
going to
comes-
have coffee with Chris. I can't do this. I'm going to have coffee with Christian Grey, and I hate coffee. It's all, you know that started as Twilight fan fiction, right?
Yeah, the best Christian 50 Shades of Grey reading is by George Takei.
Oh my God! Is that
Because-
does he do the whole thing?
He doesn't do the whole thing, but she says "oh my" a lot in that book. So they got George Takei to do it. It's great.
I am bookmarking that.
Bye.
All right.
Later. Where am I
See you
going
later.
today?